All right, I want to bring in my guest now here in the studio with me. Criminal defense attorney Natasha Harrison is here, and standing by live in New York, criminal defense attorney Joseph Marrone is there. Joe and Natasha, thank you both so much. Joe, first question to you. I want to break down two of these charges that are being brought in the Weinstein case. They are for predatory sexual assault. And in New York, there's a really great rule for prosecutors that can be invoked with a case like this. Not great if you're on the defense side. And that is, you have to prove with the charge that the defendant committed a sex assault against more than one victim. And if the jury doesn't believe both of the complaining witnesses, you can introduce the testimony of another witness. In this case, it's Annabella Sciorra. And if the jury believes her and one of your complaining witnesses, you've proven the charge if you're on the side of the state. Joe, how difficult is that for defense attorneys like you practicing in New York City when you have to go against a rule like this?
It's extremely difficult, especially when they have instances like this where there are multiple witnesses and victims that have similar circumstances. I mean, it's similar to the Cosby case, and this is what usually does these guys in. There's a long, long line of women that have a similar story, and the prosecution looks to get these witnesses in to testify. And obviously, the more witnesses allowed to testify, the more impactful it is to the prosecution's case. Now, mind you, if there are too many witnesses, it becomes prejudicial and it becomes an appealable issue. Just like it happened in the Cosby case, they went up to 5 on the second trial and that ultimately convicted him. In this particular case with Weinstein, we know we have at least 3 additional witnesses plus the victims, and Ms. Sciorra is also going to be part of that, so you have almost 5 at that point. That could be very compelling and something very difficult to overcome.
Oh, most definitely, Joe. So Annabella Sciorra, we could call her a supporting witness, if you will, because she's supporting those complaining witnesses. So we've got the 2 complaining witnesses. You could think of them as the alleged victims. Mimi Haley, who has been named publicly, and we talked to her attorney, Gloria Allred. She's okay with being named. And then Jane Doe. So those are your 2 complaining witnesses. Annabella Sciorra, who we see here, actress from The Sopranos. Okay, now this is Mimi Haley. Mimi Haley right here with Gloria Allred. But Annabella Sciorra, as I was saying, is the supporting witness. So that's 3. Then there are 3 what's called Marrone witnesses. Natasha, I want to bring you in. These are these prior bad act witnesses. We know them in other jurisdictions. You practice in Florida, for instance. Maybe there's a name in New York where Joe practices. They're called Marrone witnesses. But essentially, they're to establish a pattern, right, if you will. How effective do you think this is going to be for the state?
I think it's going to be very effective. I mean, these are charges of predatory conduct. This is not just an isolated incident, and it comes down to the ability to establish that he was a predator, that this is the type of conduct that he was engaging in more than one occasion. And when you have more witnesses, I guess the likelihood that more of them and more of their testimony will be deemed credible and that more of it will stick goes up. But what Joe said is absolutely correct. You don't want too many to where it gets prejudicial, because at the end of the day, you want as much information that you can present to win your case, but you don't want an issue of appeal, because if it goes on appeal, then you have to run that risk of it being overturned, and then you have to start all over, or, I mean, it goes beyond that. So in any time that you're in litigation, you're in trial, you want to ask for the crime that you are confident that you have enough evidence to prove. You want to present the evidence that you feel is going to, you don't want to gamble, essentially. You
right.
know? So I think that he hit the nail on the head. You want to be cautious, but present enough to where at least 2 of them can stick.
Right, and we will see how well they testify. That's going to be key. Joe and Natasha, thank you both so much. Have to go to break right now. When we come back, more coverage of New York versus Weinstein. And as we head to break, I want to give you a little reminder. 25 years ago this week, the trial of the century